Hello, I'm Graham Lewis, and in this video I'm going to be turning this monstrosity into something a little bit nicer. So the first task is to get all of the old finish off the top of the table. We'll be doing the legs in a little while, but the top is the bit that's going to be oiled, so it needs to be brought right down, finished to a pretty good standard. Now this tabletop is very old, and it had sort of raised ever so slightly at the joints where 3 or 4 pieces of wood have been joined together to make the top. So ideally it would have been, I would have planed it, but it wasn't so bad that I couldn't take it out with sandpaper, so I'm using 80 grit paper here to start with to bring that right down, and then later I'll move on to high grades of paper to bring it to a smooth finish. So after removing the dust from the sanding, I'm going to work on the routed edges here. It's got a routed sort of finish around the side of the table, and that's what's accumulated most of this sort of dirt over the years. So I want to get that nice and clean, so it gives a nice sharp edge on the finish. So I'm just removing the dust and bringing it down again with the 80 grit sandpaper, obviously before it's smoothed with high grades later on. It's quite important to keep looking around the piece and moving it to sort of work from all angles, so you get sort of even finish as you're going and working along it here. And here I am removing the legs of the table. It's got an Allen key fixing with a washer. Quite nice and simple. I put some Loctite on those when I put it back together in the end to stop them from moving. Now that the table's sanded down with PAT, I'm going to move on to the P120 and progressively work my way down from there. So I've got a really smooth finish on the top that I'm happy with. So on to the legs now, as these have already been pre-finished and they haven't taken that much abuse. It shouldn't take too much to bring them down, so I'm just going to knock them down with a bit of P120 paper, and then I'm going to use a sponge pad to just bring off any final imperfections. Now the idea here is not to worry about taking off the finish completely, it's just to get it nice and smooth really. So here I'm using a microfiber cloth just to remove all of the dust. You can use a brush as well, but I find this quite convenient and fast. Once sanding is complete, I take the dust sheet I'm using as a table cover outside, get rid of all the sawdust, so I've got a nice clean area for painting. Okay, so to stain block the legs, I'm using this Zinza BIN, which is expensive but very good. It's a shellac base stain blocker and primer, and then you need to give this a good stir before use. And wear gloves because you can't get the stuff off very easily. Here's the brush that we wrapped up from the previous table, just about surviving, so that'll do for us. And the idea here is just to get it on as even as you can. Really, it's not to make it perfect, because that's for the top coats. We're going to rub this down afterwards. A note here is just to use really cheap brushes, because you can't really clean this stuff off very easily. So this is just a nice cheapy 20p, 25p job from B&Q or somewhere like that. And this stuff dries really fast as well, so although I'm holding it like this, by the time I'm finished it's probably going to be almost touch dry. Now I'm sealing up the brush into a plastic bag again, and this will probably last about a day or so. I might not use it again, but if I get a rubber band around it, then it might last, just in case I do another project tomorrow. And I've taped up the underside of the table with frog tape, just so I can paint it easier. I'm using Dulux quick dry satin wood for this project in a summer linen colour. It's nice, easy paint to use. I'm sure there are many other great quick dry paints out there, but I'm used to using this one, so this is what I stick with for the time being. I put the legs back on just so I can easily get the paint on now, because this coat's quite important. It's not the top coat, but I don't want to have any runs or splodges in this one. It needs to be quite smooth now. Just a little tip is as well, I'm using a synthetic brush, and if you just get the brush damp first but get any heavy water out of it, then it makes the paint go on much smoother. And then once this coat's complete, I'll leave it to dry. I'm going to have a little rest. And now I'm ready to apply the second coat. One of the real beauties of this quick drying satin wood is that you can put another coat on extremely quickly. So although it recommends between 4 and 6 hours, it's not uncommon in a sort of commercial job to put on 2 coats within the hour if it's summer and there's a good airflow to dry it out. As long as you don't put the first coat on too thick, then the second coat will be ready in not much time at all. It's important on this coat to get it smooth as you can. Look out for any runs. Get a nice even coverage. Make sure everything's covered, because this is the most important coat. Once the top coat's dry, it's time to remove the frog tape or other painter's tape, and then you can get ready to do the top. It's important at this stage just to see if there's any paint that's accidentally got onto the top piece of wood, and just remove that, and just have another look over it in a different light and see if it needs any more sanding. Once you've blown all the dust off, just give it a final feel and check you're happy. I'm using Osmo Door oil on this because, well, that's what I had left over and it does the job nicely. I'm using an old rag to apply it, just swirling it in. So I plant a splodge on top and just work it into the wood until it drinks it all up. And you can see the grain being revealed there. It takes quite a lot on a properly sanded piece of wood. It really drinks it in, but the finish is worth it. So this will have this finish and then another one afterwards once dry. Okay, so here's the finished nest of tables. I'm really pleased with them actually. They started off as tables that I really didn't like and was going to get rid of, but now there's something which I really quite like having around. You know, they're great just to have down by the side of the sofa or armchair, and I think they look pretty good really. If you enjoyed this, then don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for updates, and please like the video, and I hope to bring more projects to you soon. Thanks very much.